Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Classic Monday movie holiday edition. And for this one, I thought it would be interesting to briefly talk about more of a, I guess you could say, traditional classic holiday film, since I talked about Die Hard, which I guess you would consider a uh, holiday, loosely based holiday film. So, as you can see by the title, and the thumbnail, that is A Christmas Story. Yes, A Christmas Story, the 1983 family film that, again, does have a little bit more adult humor than I think kids' films do nowadays. But at the same time, there's still, I think, a lot to enjoy from this film. Now, this film doesn't revolve around a big grand story. There's not a huge amount of epicness to it or grandeur, but I think it's very simplistic, down to earth approach. Um, Works in the context of a good Christmas film because it takes all of the things that we sort of know from Christmas and puts it sort of into a child's perspective because really the story um, is seen through Ralphie, the main character's point of view. We kind of are sucked into his understanding and his childhood, basically. So I think that's really ultimately sort of the heart of the film. And I think it puts in Christmas fairly well by having it focus more on a child as opposed to an adult. Now, the thing too that you have to know about this film is that the plot is not necessarily hugely focused. It kind of meanders, and there's a ton of subplots. But basically, the most commonly noted plot point of the film is basically Ralphie wanting the Red Ryder Carbon Action 200 shot um, range model air rifle. So yes, he wants specifically that rifle for Christmas, and he even requests Santa for the gift in the movie. So it's largely showcasing, I think, that sort of selfish nature of children that, I mean, I admit I had when I was a child. I mean, I always wanted stuff. So it really brings in that element in there. And I think, sort of the adult reactions fit perfectly within a child's mindset. And the way the film um, works off of Ralphie's selfish desires and at the same time, sort of showcasing his life at the same time, I think really does highlight something that is what we would consider sort of part of um, Christmas uh, to, I think, children largely. Um, and again, since we had more subplots and not necessarily a main focus, this might deter viewers. But I think at the same time, it doesn't feel like you're watching a film. Um, and I think that's really big um, the the big point that makes this film unique, and what I think is difficult for a lot of films to do is to make it seem like you're not watching a film. And I think this film does it fairly effectively because, again, we don't have a hugely based focus. There's not a lot of grandeur, but at the same time, there is this simple approach that executes the finer details and the main picture out so well that it does seem to me to reflect the sense of joy, of memories, of heart that is really at the center of Christmas, at least the Christmas that we know today. Um, so I think in a way it gives this sense of life and what life was like as a child. And that I think really ties in with Christmas and with fantasy and imagination and all that good stuff. So the film largely, I think, executes that aspect really well. And you will see what I mean when you choose, and if you choose to watch the film. But um, you do see Ralphie with his family, but you also see him with his friends. His friends become a big part of the film. There's also a lot of discouragement from his family. Again, the famous line, "You'll shoot your eye out, kid," that I think really does show you the kinds of things that this film sort of uh, took and what really captured people. And I think that that sense of rejection um, is something that we're not used to when we're children, and to hear it just sort of is very discouraging. But I think it really highlights well what how in a way how life works, and sometimes initially you may not get what you want, but ultimately you end up with satisfaction within the end after some time. So I think that's really the center of this film. It's largely about childhood, but it really takes the childhood perspective of what Christmas is like, and completely absorbs um, that approach. But as far as other characters are concerned, again, I don't think they're as memorable as Ralphie because we're given the most screen time with Ralphie, and so and the film really does try to make it seem like you're watching it through his perspective. So it's even though we don't really get the most compelling characters, at the same time I feel that these other characters serve their purpose and do sort of impact the story, and you'll sort of see this within the subplots that occur with his family and that occur with his friends. But you do sort of see the childlike mischief, the childlike wonder, the sort of positive as well as negative aspects. I don't think this movie tries to sugarcoat childhood, but at the same time, I think it does provide a sense of joy uh, and a real understanding of how a child would view Christmas and view the world around them at that age that Ralphie, um, well, the character of Ralphie ends up being, because I almost want to say he's still in elementary school. I don't think he's not, definitely not reached middle school, but he's probably like maybe 10 or so. Yeah, I'm guessing 10, but I think again that's a sort of a profound age to focus on. Um, and I think we don't really have, again, a lot of films, even in general, that do take it from a child's perspective and see it through a child's point of view. Usually it's through an adult's point of view. And usually the child has to end up learning a lesson or something. But it's nice to see in this one how, for the most part, the child is just enjoying his life and, sort of learning from his mistakes, and at the same time, making little new mistakes, and then, sort of enjoying and appreciating what he has. Um, I think that's really the heart of the film. Uh, but I think that's really, though, all I can really say about it without giving anything away, because yeah, it's really not a plot-driven film. It's largely based on a series of moments, a series of sort of vignettes, you could say, that end up making a film. But at the same time, those vignettes are woven in together, I think, so well. that they suit the film and that they suit the message that it's sort of trying to convey to its audience. So I think it really works. Has it aged over some time? Yeah, I'm sure, because again, the way children are now is obviously not exactly the same as it was back in the day, especially when we didn't have cell phones and iPads and all that junk to entertain children. But at the same time, I think it does capture that essence of childhood, and definitely captures the sort of mischief that sort of embodies it. And I think it's definitely worthy of recommendation during this holiday season if you have not seen this movie. Um, I don't know. I don't know if there's anybody out there who hasn't seen it. Again, I'm pretty sure the younger generation, might not be aware of this movie. Um, it's probably as famous as It's a Wonderful Life, and is up there with The Christmas Carol too. Probably one of the higher noted Christmas films. But yeah, I think it's definitely worth a recommendation if you're interested in that kind of approach. It's largely based within comedy, so you could consider it, I guess, a family comedy, really, with some adult jokes in there, and sort of refreshing because they're kind of more of a realistic way of approaching childhood humor as opposed to the sugarcoating that is done nowadays. So, uh, yeah, I think if you are that 10-year-old who wants to see a movie that's through your point of view, I'd say watch this movie. And if you were 10 and you remember the times of when you were a child during Christmas, I'd say definitely watch this movie. So it's enjoyable for both children and adults. It does what a good children's film does, and is, I think, definitely worthy of praise this holiday season. But ultimately, I think that's all I can really say about it. But if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.